The moment Callum Merrick's phone exploded to life at 2 a.m., it felt as if the entire universe tilted in a direction he never could have imagined. The sharp ringtone tore through the silence of his tiny living room, where Cal had fallen asleep on the frayed old sofa. On the coffee table, a half-finished beer still carried a ring of condensation, and the TV glowed mutely like a quiet ghost. His body jerked upright on instinct, an old habit forged from years of waking up for Hazel, his 10-year-old daughter. Even after finishing a brutal 14-hour shift at the auto shop, Cal sprang up like a coil. The number on the screen was unfamiliar. And who calls at this hour unless something is terribly wrong? His mind went straight to Hazel. She was sleeping over at her friend Piper's tonight. Was something wrong? His heart hammered hard enough to crack his ribcage as he picked up. "Please, I need you." It was a woman's voice, choked, trembling, as if she was clinging to the last thread of hope. "Harborview Hospital. Room 302. Please come." Cal shot fully upright. "I think you've got the wrong—" "James? Is that you?" Her voice cracked apart in raw desperation. "I'm so scared. I don't want to be alone." Something in that tone, primitive, exposed fear, hit the deepest part of Cal, the part he had locked away after Rosalind died 4 years ago. He remembered that ice-cold feeling of facing darkness alone, the crushing weight of loneliness when the world collapsed, and there was no hand to hold. "I'm not James," Cal said, "but I can come. Just try to breathe, okay?" He didn't even understand why he said it. The words leapt out of him as if a kinder version of himself had temporarily taken the wheel. The call ended. Cal stared at the phone, wondering if he was dreaming. Then logic rushed in. What the hell was he doing? Driving to a hospital in the middle of the night because a stranger dialed the wrong number? His eyes drifted to the photo of Rosalind on the shelf. His wife's smile, forever frozen at 36, seemed to watch him, asking quietly, "How are you really living, Callum?" Next to it was Hazel's picture, his daughter, gap-toothed, holding her cardboard kindergarten diploma, 10 years old, sleeping safely at her friend's house. Everything he did, all the overtime shifts, all the nights passing out on this worn sofa, was for her. The phone felt heavier in his hand. Who was that woman? Why was she clinging to a man named James, who didn't bother to show up? 2:08 a.m. His rational brain listed 100 reasons to lie back down. He had a transmission to install in the morning, and he needed to pick up Hazel at 9. He didn't even know exactly where Harborview Hospital was. Yet his hands reached for his keys. He called Mrs. Constance Bellamy, the elderly neighbor who had insisted multiple times on being his emergency contact. He apologized for waking her and gave a brief explanation, asking if she could keep an eye on his apartment in case Hazel came home early. Then he stepped out the door. Seattle at dawn was eerily empty. Traffic lights changed for cars that didn't exist. Cal drove his beat-up old Ford through the dark city, each mile making him question his own sanity. His shabby car looked completely out of place in the hospital parking lot. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, everyone's face seemed washed pale. Cal followed the antiseptic hallway to the 3rd floor. With every step, the same question echoed. Who goes to a hospital for a stranger at 2 in the morning? But the answer always returned. Because sometimes, in life, all someone needs is someone who shows up. Room 302 was slightly ajar. Cal hesitated. He could still turn around, pretend this night never happened. But the steady beeping of the monitors pulled him forward. He knocked softly. She lay there, copper hair spilling across the white pillow, her face pale but so strikingly beautiful it made him pause. Early 30s, and clearly fighting something far bigger than herself. "You're not James." "No, I'm Callum. You dialed the wrong number," he added quickly when her eyes widened. "I just heard how frightened you sounded. I couldn't not come." She stared at him for a long moment, then suddenly let out a small, broken laugh, a sound tangled with gratitude and bitterness. "I'm Vivian Marlowe," she said, "and it seems the universe sent me a guardian angel, instead of a useless ex-boyfriend." The name jolted Cal. Marlowe Communications, the massive telecom corporation known for swallowing up smaller companies. He had skimmed headlines before dismissing them. That world was galaxies away from his greasy auto shop. "James and I broke up 3 weeks ago," she said, wincing as she tried to sit up. "The doctors said tonight would be rough. I called him again. Stupid, I know." Her half-smile tasted bitter. Some promises were never meant to be kept. Cal hovered awkwardly at the door, unsure whether to step in or step out. He hadn't expected conversation. He just wanted to make sure she wasn't alone and then leave quietly. "Do you want me to call anyone? Family? Friends?" Vivian shook her head. "No one. My father passed last year. My mother lives in Europe. As for friends..." She glanced at the empty chair beside her bed. "That kind doesn't show up at 2 a.m. But since you're already here, could you stay for a little while?" Before Cal could answer, the door opened. A doctor entered. Tall, steel-gray hair, every movement efficient and urgent. "The latest results aren't good," the doctor said. "We need to adjust treatment immediately. Ms. Marlowe's leukemia is progressing faster than expected." Vivian's expression didn't change, but Cal saw her fingers turn white as she clutched the sheet. The doctor turned to him. "I'm Dr. Penelope Strand. And you are?" "Callum Merrick. I'm a friend of Vivian's." The lie slipped out as lightly as a breath, startling even himself. Outside in the hallway, Dr. Strand lowered her voice. "Ms. Marlowe has acute myeloid leukemia. We've been treating her for 3 months, but tonight, the cancer is resisting the medication." She checked her watch. "The next 48 hours are critical. The new regimen is stronger, but it comes with greater risks." Cal stood there, swallowing each word like stone. So, when she said she was scared, she meant it. Dr. Strand nodded. "We'll begin the new treatment in an hour. Even if you're not family, she wants you to stay. Emotional support matters." Cal's hand tightened around his backpack strap. "I'll stay, as long as she needs." When the doctor left, he remained alone in the dim hallway, trying to understand how his life had veered onto this path. He should call Mrs. Bellamy. He should check on Hazel. He should go back to his already chaotic life. Instead, he walked back into room 302. Vivian now looked impossibly small. The strong, polished mask she wore had completely fallen away. "Did the doctor tell you the dangerous part?" she whispered. "Most people run the moment they hear it." "I'm not most people," Cal replied, taking the chair. "So, Vivian Marlowe of Marlowe Communications. Tell me why a telecom heiress is alone here at 2 in the morning?" Her brows arched. "So you did recognize the name?" "I read the news sometimes," Cal chuckled softly, "while waiting for engine parts." Vivian studied him more closely, as if seeing him clearly for the first time. "So what's the most important thing in your life, Callum Merrick?" "My daughter, Hazel. She's 10. The answer came instantly. "Everything else is just detail." Vivian's gaze softened. "Tell me about her." So he did. For over an hour, between the footsteps of nurses and the hum of machines, Cal talked about Hazel, her science project on engine efficiency, her obsession with vintage cars, how she was better at mechanical intuition than math, their Sunday movie nights they hadn't missed since Rosalind's passing. In return, Vivian cracked open her world, the pressure of being the sole heiress, a skeptical board of directors, the ex-boyfriend who fled after her diagnosis, the friends who evaporated when illness stole her shine. That conversation, strangely enough, felt effortless, as if two souls from distant worlds had stumbled into the same fragile moment. "The doctors said I might not make it through the night," Vivian said at last, voice eerily calm. "That's why I called James. I didn't want to die alone." Cal's heart dropped. "Then I'll stay," he said, quiet but solid as bedrock. No one should face this alone. That night, beside a cold white hospital bed, a single dad and a dying billionaire woman, standing on the edge of a 48-hour battle, unwittingly stepped into a story that would alter both their destinies. If you're following this story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss part 2, because the twists only get wilder from here. And tell me, do you think that 2 a.m. phone call was random, or was fate trying to intervene? Vivian survived that night, bluntly defying every grim prediction the doctors had laid out. When dawn broke, the critical window had passed. Her body was responding to the new treatment regimen far better than anyone had dared to hope. This time, she asked for Cal's phone number properly, directly, clearly, an intentional exchange, not a mistaken call in the dark. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice far steadier than it had been just hours before. "Most people would never have come. Most people haven't been where I've been," he replied, thinking of those first terrifying nights after Rosalind died. "Take care of yourself, Vivian Marlowe." He left the hospital believing with absolute certainty that this was the end of their strange encounter. He had a daughter to pick up, a transmission to rebuild, a life to return to. He had no idea how wrong he was. 3 days later, just as Cal was preparing to close up Merrick's Motors for the evening, a glossy black car rolled into the lot, like it had slipped out of a luxury auto commercial. The driver stepped out, a stern-faced man in a suit that probably cost more than Cal's monthly rent. He approached, carrying a cream-colored envelope. "Ms. Marlowe requests your presence at her residence tomorrow evening at 7, the man said, his voice perfectly crisp. "The address is inside the envelope. She instructed me to tell you that this matter is very important." Cal's first instinct was to shut it down immediately. His life was already tangled enough, like a mass of burnt wires. He didn't need a billionaire battling illness thrown into the mix. But curiosity, and if he was honest with himself, concern for Vivienne, quietly won out. For the next 24 hours, he found himself distractible, unfocused, his mind continually circling back to the same question. What does Vivian want from me? Hazel quickly noticed the odd behavior in their usual morning routine. "Dad," she frowned, "you just poured orange juice into your coffee and put my cereal in my lunchbox. What's wrong with you today?" All he could do was give her a sheepish smile, but that question stuck with him the entire day. What was wrong with him? Why was he so drawn to a woman he had only spent a few hours with? Someone who belonged to a world so far removed from his. It was like they were two different species. The Marlowe estate was exactly what he imagined, and then some. A sprawling mansion overlooking the city, gardens trimmed to perfection, and a security system that made Fort Knox look like a children's playground. Cal stepped out of his truck, suddenly feeling out of place in his clean but faded jeans and the button-down shirt he had ironed within an inch of its life. A housekeeper led him through marble-tiled halls into a sunlit room, where Vivian was waiting. She looked far better than she had under the harsh hospital lights. A flush of color had returned to her cheeks, though her whole presence still seemed fragile, as if a strong breeze might tip her over. When she saw him, she smiled. A real smile that reached her eyes, no longer just a polite mask. "Callum Merrick, you actually came." "You said it was important," he replied, remaining standing, abruptly aware of how luxuriously poor he looked, amid a room where the pristine white sofa probably cost as much as his entire truck. Vivian gestured for him to take the seat across from her. "I have a proposal for you," she said, her voice both serious and tinged with hesitation. "It's going to sound a little crazy, but I hope you'll listen to all of it before you say no." What Vivian proposed that evening was, quite literally, insane. She explained that her rare form of leukemia was treatable, but would require months of aggressive, relentless therapy. The prognosis was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The board of directors was using her illness as an excuse to seize control of the company. "They think I'm weak," Vivian said, a flash of anger lighting up her exhausted eyes. "They think they can push me off the track while I'm down. I need to prove to them and to the